In the previous video, we discussed my requirements for what I'm calling the Regressive Field Rifle or Regressive Flexible Rifle, the RFR. If you want to change that name, please go back to the previous video, enter a name that you have for this, and upvote other people's names. Let's see what rises to the top, and we'll name the rifle that for the rest of the series. But one thing that I left out from those requirements last time is the scope. In a lot of cases, we have very accurate and very capable rifles that are being held back by the incorrect scope. And the scope is not so much a match for the rifle. We really need to think about what we're going to actually be hitting out in the field. We need to think target-centric. Those of you that have seen my 17-part optics series where I describe the various facets of a rifle scope and what you need to think about, and I'll put a link to it up here, but those of you that have watched this, you've heard this spiel before. Today we're going to get up close and personal with this rifle and what I have designed for it, and I've already picked the scope based on these requirements, but let's talk about them right up here. Remember from our optics series that when we're picking a rifle scope, yes, we're going to take into account what rifle it's sitting on. Yes, we're going to take into account what ammunition, what round this is. But the most important thing about this scope is actually out here. It's the target. We need to consider how big it is, how far away it is, how fast it is, how dangerous it is, and then how many of them there might be. And that's going to drive what kind of scope we pick. Since we're dealing with a wide variety of targets, we're going to have prairie dogs within 300 yards, we'll have coyotes out to maybe 600 yards, and they're going to be kind of on the smaller side when it comes to taking that shot. We'll have hogs way up close, hopefully not as close as we got into last time, but if a hog does get up close and dangerous, then I want a scope that's going to be able to deal with that. We're going to have deer within 200 yards, so in the end I need something that's going to have a lot of variability to it. I want something that's going to have a massive zoom ratio. I want it to be pretty large. I want it to be something that can scale back a whole lot. I want something that can dial back to maybe 1x or 2x. And I want something that can get me a little bit closer up when it comes time to take those more precise shots on a coyote or a prairie dog. Is there a scope that can do this? Yes, there is. I've already selected this. This is the Athlon Helos BTR Gen 2 2-12x42mm IR, so that's illuminated reticle mil scope. There's a mil one and an MOA, and we'll do a full review on this after we've done some real testing with it, but I just got this in yesterday. I'm really excited about it, and as far as the theory of what we're going to be doing with this rifle, this scope is going to be absolutely perfect. I didn't think that a scope like this actually existed. I came up with the requirements in my head first, and I went out on Optics Planet, and this just happened to have everything that I was looking for, and we're going to discuss all those different features. First off, I determined that since I'm dealing with animals that could be a variety of sizes and different distances and different danger factors, I knew that I wanted something that would be in the I wanted it on the low end to be 2x, so I wanted it to be 2x up through 12x, at least 10x. And I figured if I could get a 12, that would be awesome. So this is before I even knew that this scope existed. This was my pie-in-the-sky scope that I wanted. I wanted a 2-12. I also wanted something with an FFP reticle. I wanted this to be one that would stretch and shrink its reticle along with the target. It's just easier to work that way, especially in dynamic environments. I don't want to worry about what magnification I'm on. I only want to be able to set the magnification that helps me to see my target better. And that's what FFP is all about. All I do is just dial this in the field so that I can get a good lead on my target, and then I don't worry about anything else. I just make my measurements inside the reticle. I wanted something that would have more of a Christmas tree reticle rather than a simple crosshair. So I wanted it to, have those stadia that go through there, but I wanted to have either extra dots or lines out to the side so that I could make those difficult wind calls or be able to lead a target properly as it's running. Although I plan to spend most of my time actually in this reticle using it to make all of my difficult shots, I did want something that would be able to dial very accurately between those different values as well. So if I wanted to take a more extreme shot, I could dial on the turret and then just use the windage lines on the reticle to deal with wind and with a lead on a target. Also, since we have kind of a large zoom ratio and we have FFP, remember that you can lose the reticle. It can get so ridiculously small in the view when you're on 2x that it can be very difficult to see the reticle. And there are two different ways that people can deal with this. They can either put some kind of element into the reticle so that you can see better when you're at low magnification, like some people will put a great big horseshoe through there, or a large circle, something to help indicate where the center dot is. It may have very thick lines off to the sides. So these will be out of the view when you're when you're zoomed in, but when you zoom out, you'll be able to see these larger kind of crosshairs. And then you also might have illumination, and that'll help point you toward the center of the reticle. Well, this has all of that. This has thicker bars off to the sides and bottom and top, and you have kind of a central circle that is thicker than everything else, and it's going to show up more easily, and it's all illuminated. Everything in the center is illuminated. So this is going to function well as things get down past dusk. It's going to function really well if I'm at low magnification and at high magnification. So I think this scope is the ultimate. And actually all these requirements were things that I just had in my head, and I thought, nah, nobody makes a scope like that. I went to Optics Planet, I went to see if there was a 2-12x, and this scope had everything that I was looking for. Whoever designed this scope, I'd like to shake your hand, because you met my needs before I even knew that I had them. I think a lot of you guys that are looking for a flexible scope for multiple uses, if you have that one rifle, if you have a rifle that you're designating for kind of advanced defense, like think about the folks in Ukraine right now that are having to defend their territory in situations where they don't quite know. It could be close up and urban. It could be ranging out farther across some of those fields. This is the kind of scope that can get that kind of job done with extreme precision. I've already taken a look through this. The glass is wonderful. Everything that's going on through here seems to be very high quality, and I think that you should take a serious look at this scope. I've put a direct link to the Helos in the description down below that'll take you to Optics Planet and the listing for this scope. So if you want to check out its stats, if you want to make a purchase, now is probably the time to do it. It looks like there aren't a whole ton of them out there right now, and I know that with supply chain issues, these might disappear, maybe based on this review. But a couple of things that I'd like to point out before you plunk down your cash. First off, you can get into lighter weight options. This does have some heft to it. It's built to take a hit. It's, a 30mm tube. It has a whole bunch of features going on, and so yes, that will cost a little bit of extra weight. So just see if that works for you. You can always get an LPVO, like there's a Helos LPVO out there that's going to chop off the bell here. Keep in mind though that we have a very flexible zoom range with this and a larger lens, so this will continue to function really well as we get into dusk and beyond it. I think this is going to be a functional scope for those dark times. Another thing to keep in mind is that these turrets are a bit on the large side, so if you're really concerned about snags and you want something that's going to be flat and kind of simple, you might look at something like the Zero Tech Thrive that I've talked about before. That could be another good option for you. It's still a 30mm tube, good image, works past dusk, and it's going to have turrets that just everything sits a little bit lower and more flush. I might as well take a little time to describe some of the optical qualities I'm seeing through this. In the full review, I'll actually show you what it looks like. But the image through here is wonderful. Whatever resolution we have in the center, which is quite high, is going to extend all the way to the edges. So you're going to be able to see everything. If you are dealing with a whole pack of animals, you're not going to have one animal in focus and everything else out. No, everything's going to be in focus. You're going to be able to see everything that you want. If you have some kind of tiny little details you're looking for, like swaying grass, mirage, this is going to pick it up. It has no weird color cast going on. Everything is just natural. This is one of those scopes that kind of gets into that eerie territory where it's more like you're just looking at objects closer up than you are looking through a series of lenses. And as kind of an extra party trick, the lens coatings in here are fantastic. I pointed this scope as dangerously near the sun as I dared, and I still would not wash out the image. The sun was going down, and it didn't bloom this scope out at all. If you want to still be able to see your target, if you want to be able to see your animal as the sun is going down and maybe it's right behind that animal, you will still be able to see it. Now remember, don't point this directly at the sun. You're going to blind yourself. But I just want to let you know that this will continue to function in pretty much any kind of situation that you have. And I think that this is IPX7 waterproof. I'll have to put an annotation down below to what kind of waterproofing we have here, but it should be good. The other Athlons that I've checked out have had a really good waterproofing. Also, one more really cool thing on the back end here. Even up at 12x, this is a wonderfully forgiving scope. This has a very easy eye box, a large exit pupil, thanks in part to that objective lens over here and its larger size. So that's one of the things you might think about before you go with an LPVO over something like this. It's just very flexible back there. You have a pretty long eye relief. I'll annotate it here. And then you can really move your eye around quite a bit back there and not lose your target. So if you're dealing with a dangerous animal, you're not going to have your eye in exactly the right spot. This is a very forgiving scope. Well, thanks a bunch for watching, you guys. Like I said, we're going to have a full review on the Athlon Helos over time, and we may test one or more other scopes out on here. I have a night vision scope that we might drop on if we get into some nighttime coyote hunting, so watch for all of that. We'll have those reviews and tests in the future, and hopefully we'll be able to get out on the ranch and be able to knock down some animals. Thanks for watching, and thank you, patrons of the destructive arts, for making videos like these possible. These are the ones that I know you guys have been waiting for. We have a whole bunch more coming out. We're going to put the rifle together, we're going to test it out, see how it functions with factory ammo, and we're going to be doing a fair bit of hand loading with this in a variety of bullet weights. Pretty much everybody is using 6mm arc right now for target shooting, and for me, I'm much more interested in seeing what it's going to do against practical targets, and that's going to include even small targets. So we're going to have 58 grain bullets, 65 grain bullets, 75, 87, 100, up through some of the heavier ones like 108, and we're going to see how they function in this rifle. Stick around, we have a lot more coming. I'll see you in the next video.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. Even if you didn't like this particular content, go ahead and subscribe. There's probably something coming that's more up your alley. Check out this playlist right here. This is going to have videos in a similar vein to what you just watched. These two videos we cherry-picked for you. And finally, the Social Regressive is on Patreon. So you can become a patron of the destructive arts and earn some goodies while helping us to provide high-quality videos just by kicking us a few bucks a month. Thanks a bunch for your patronage.